Well, hi, folks. I am doing this live right now, hoping that we can all recognize what we are doing, what our mission is here. Our mission from the get-go has been to stop the illegal, fraudulent, forged documents in our land records. Thousands of us have worked together for almost 2 decades now. I know so many of you, but keep your eye on the ball. This is not about political parties, one against the other. This is about the title trafficking of our lands. We are demanding a meeting with DOJ, with President Trump, to clean up our land records. We need a pause on all this electronic recording. Why? Because as we know, since all of this started back in 2013, from my knowledge, regarding what the land records software system is doing, we found that it ties all the way up to the Department of Defense. Casey Tuckness and I had a patent that, thanks to her, was introduced to me, which tied all of my research in together. This is an octopus. Obama used these land records software systems, plural, but in California, it was Clinton brought it in 97. When Kamala Harris got in, all of the platforms started, the creation of it. She was tasked with getting it implemented and going. What we didn't know as California 18 was this was going on, and how much it tied to all the fraud that C.J. Holmes had taken to her with our California 18 cases. What it means is this electronic recordation system is an octopus. It goes all over the world. Anybody who has access to it can go in and record documents without a single worry, except for us. This is mostly your attorneys. This is mostly your investors. And what happens is they record these documents, and then we as homeowners may not even know what's happening. We haven't signed off on any of this stuff they're doing knowingly and participating knowingly. We have to focus. Get these land records paused for electronic recordation. We need to definitely, and I mean definitely, have a DOJ audit. Because I was talking to Renee Weiler and Janet this morning, Janet Hill, and we know, after watching what DOJ is doing and all these other departments, it's just a little thing that goes into this system, and it extrapolates everything going on. It's not going to take decades. Back in the day, I remember when I was laughed at for saying, hey, we can fix these land records. It's not a big deal. And oh my gosh, we'd have to unwind everything. And holy crap, this would destroy our country. No, it won't. This is simple, folks. Very simple. Shut down and pause, at least pause, electronic land recordings. Do a complete and full audit of the land records, meaning how many forged deeds have been recorded? How many forged assignments have been recorded? How many fraudulent? And how many attorneys have been involved in this? DOJ will find enough money, credits. Some of us have studied public versus private for quite some time and have been taught by very wise people. This is hundreds of trillions of dollars in fines and fees in each municipality, in each state, in our entire country. Remember back in the day when Obama used our land records as his ATM for Obamacare? I wrote an article about it, and a week later, the Treasury came out and said, oh, oops. He kind of obtrusively just took $500 billion of our GSEs overseas, and they're gone. $500 billion? That ties into our homes. That's trafficking our title through these land records. So I highly suggest that everybody hear this, please. Going all these different directions into securitization and into this, and all of it's known. Once the land records are audited and these criminals who've used our land records are taken to task, titles will be returned and remedy is given in treble damages for all the fraud. See, oh, I don't want my house back. Knock the emotions out of this, folks. Think business. The business of our country. And that's what DOJ is supposedly doing right now, is auditing all these records, auditing, and oh, they're so excited. They found 2.some trillion. Well, I'm telling you, this is hundreds of trillions of dollars in fines and fees and lifetimes in prison. And I'm going to end this one right now because I'm really up in arms about this. Patrick Soria. How many of you know about Patrick Soria? Well, when Powers Bank versus Bank of New York Mellon was going on, so many of you across this country sent in as interested parties to be part of the civil joinder of criminal actions. Civil joinder of criminal. What that meant is you all had crimes committed against you in these land records. So you came into the case and it became our case. And as our case progressed, unknowing to us, Orange County, San Diego, LA, and Riverside decided to placate the country, and they arrested Patrick Soria. They indicted him for mortgage fraud. But guess what he got? He got taken. He was sentenced for wire fraud and contempt of court based on the land records that he recorded across this country. They gave him credit for 2,000 thefts using the name Bank of New York Mellon as trustee. Now, in our case, Powers versus Bank of New York Mellon, and in Brashear's case, we clearly showed that these land records were the catalyst for everything. And we demanded, because Judge David O. Carter, who named himself the Sledgehammer, promised if I could prove that there was fraud in my case, he would send this all the way up to the U.S. Attorney General, who is now Pam Bondi, by the way, right? Who didn't help us in Florida. People thought she did, but maybe now that she's in a position not to have to worry about doing things that could harm her position, she will help us. This is hundreds of trillions of dollars. This will not only clear our national debt, but this goes way beyond the tariffs. Do the tariffs, President Trump, but clean up the land records and collect the fraud for fines and fees for the forgeries and fraud. And by the way, DOJ, it's been brought to my attention that I think it's $800 billion that was given to the American Bar Association through USAID. Let that sink in. Even if it's $800 million, it's still too much, because what that tells us is we kept saying, who's paying these guys? How can they be allowed to perjure themselves? How are these courts allowing this to happen? Well, we knew there was pay to play. There had to be. We had the DAs, Leslie Young in Orange County here, with Todd Spitzer's office. John Min had our case open for 3 years. Investigation for all of this. But we didn't know that when this investigation started, Patrick Soria's case was going on. Orange County, LA, San Diego, Riverside DAs with the U.S. Attorney General. They shadow cased my case, our case, for all the people across this country that I went to standing as the woman, the Californian, and Judge Carter recognized me. I showed him all the fraud. We showed them how the land records had been used. So the U.S. Attorney General should have been called in. But Patrick Soria came along, so they used him as the patsy. Let's do this case, and we'll settle this Bank of New York Mellon stuff all the way around. It's my thought. When I called Leslie Young to talk about the meeting we'd been waiting for forever, because John Min started ghosting us so quickly into all of this, well, he started ghosting us when the Patrick Soria case came along. And instead of getting Patrick Soria on the land records that he forged and fraudulently used across this country, They only gave him wire fraud and contempt of court for using them. Had they have actually indicted him for the frauds and felonies he committed and the forgeries in those records, he'd have never seen the light of day. I think he got like 12 years. He's going to serve 8. Well, I actually sent him a nice little letter telling him, because of his age, I figured he just grew up when pay to play was the thing to do and copy and paste was the norm in title companies and everything else. So maybe it wasn't his fault, but he knew he was being used as a patsy so he could get off, because what he did to this country and thousands of homeowners across this country, you can't make this stuff up. And Renee Weiler's been doing audits of MERS for years. Maxine Waters' house, Judge David O'Carter's properties, Adam Shifty old Schiff. Well, he's the shit when it comes to MERS fraud. He's got to look at his records. She's done all of these. We've got it all. But it all comes down to the land records. So how about Doge step in? Come on, Elon. This is going to be fun for you. Returning all of these homes to the people who've been wrongly dispossessed of everything, health, wealth, equity. It's time. So let's see if we can get the land records audited and all of the software paused and cleaned up, because it's all good. I mean, recording things electronically does make it much smoother, but it also makes it much easier to steal everything someone owns. And instead of letting people get indicted just on the minimal stuff, oh, wire fraud. Yeah, well, guess what? If he hadn't had those land records recorded, they wouldn't have even had him on that. So, Orange County, California, you've got Powers versus Bank of New York Mellon, where all these people came into the case. Their evidence of crimes against them were ordered destroyed, which I'm told is called spoliation. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but you get the point. Let's audit the land records across this country. It's going to clean everything up, and it's going to give us not only hope of having home ownership again in this country that's of value, but it's also going to show that, hey, get rid of these property taxes. We paid property taxes up front. Let's get rid of the property taxes. We don't need them. There's an exponential amount of funds wasted. We can see that. So instead of stealing everything that can be touched and letting these foreign investors, Mikhail Trubchik is the CEO of All Rise Capital. He's the place card holder on our property, on our family ranch right now. And I use that term because another big attorney in Newport Beach used that term. He said, oh, you've got a big fight against you there. He's got a special warranty deed. And he's, yeah, that's pretty telling. Another man who's very big in real estate, he said the same thing. Oh, you're screwed. Special warranty deed. They're doing everything they can to get around everything to keep your home. And what that means is that's just land theft. That's title trafficking. And if we could equate that, think about the Western days, what cattle rustling was. You didn't steal a man's property. Cattle is property. But as we know, thanks to Carole King, and back in the day, under all these life insurance policies, under all these policies, we're considered chattel. We're livestock. So think about how this all ties in. This is not only theft of our property, this is the theft of our identity, our land, homes, our lives, and our families. Because all of the funds that have been taken through these land record crimes have gone into all of these other programs laundering funds. And remember, we tied the Clinton Foundation in a long time ago with all of those properties that were being built and then left sitting. What easier way can you have to launder anything but then to have property sitting and not going anywhere? Let's clean up the land records. Focus, people. Get on the train here. Audit the land records. Return stolen titles. give remedy to the victims of all of this who have fought very hard to get their properties back and to clean these land records up. And let's hold these public servants accountable. Because the one thing about the secure recordation system is when you read the platform, when you read how it went in, Kamala Harris back in the day was given the duty when any fraud was found to fully investigate, and anybody that would have touched it or been a part of it would not only lose their job, could lose their pension, but should go to jail. And she never came in. The California 18, she promised us back in 2013 that she'd fully investigate. Well, a year later, myself and Jed, without knowing it, both reached out. And what we found was not only were they doing zero, the FBI, no one was doing their job. No one was helping us. We were laughed at, we were mocked, and I was told by Thomas Ritz, whatever his name is, back in the day, Billy, you show me where there's fraud in the land record recorded. That's all I need. Well, I showed him, and for a year he got my evidence. My private investigator reached out to him after I told Mr. Ritz, hey, my private investigator, and he said, you have an investigator? Have him call me. Well, my investigator called him, and then my investigator calls me back and says, the man's done nothing. He has laughed at all the documents you've sent him, but he's done nothing. So when Renee Weiler and I teamed up, we're SEC whistleblowers. We're friends of the Treasury. We're friends of the U.S. I got SWAT teamed twice, had everything I owned stolen, attacked in the land records. Yeah, attacked by sheriffs, 2 which were very big men, and then a little guy who had little man syndrome, Mr. Pena. Won't tell you other things I've called him. Things that have happened to us over these years cannot be left undone. We must get the justice that our system tells us we are awarded, because none of us on our teams are whistleblowers across this country. We've been SWAT team, incarcerated, beaten, having everything we owned stolen. I had animals murdered on my property. In satanic ritual terms, murdered. My chickens all laid in circles with their feet in, with one of the chickens' feet in the middle. The trespass, the scaring us. How did this happen? Because of the damn land records. Because of the electronic recordation. Because these criminals have been allowed to use us to enrich their filthy hands, and the state bar has ignored us. The State Bar of Trustees, I've been involved for the last year in insurance claims. The State Bar sends me government forms to fill out. Why? Because most people don't know, and we didn't quite realize it either. The State Bar is a government agency. And then we find out the American Bar Association has taken all of these funds from USAID. And we know USAID isn't about America. From what I see, it's about every other country and every other platform of craziness that exists out here. And FYI, folks, the glasses are on top of my head. I'm going to put them down so I can see and I'm going to give you a good laugh. As my son says, my God, Mom, you got Magoo eyes. Let's see what we're talking about. Hey, Mel. Yeah, Renee, offers of the court. Hi, Nancy Beck. My God, dear friend, I haven't seen you in ages. And if you see me right now, you're going to go, holy crap, she let herself on camera like that? Yeah, I did, because you know what? It's time. It's time we get everybody listening to share this. Get it to Trump. Get it to Doge. Get it to everybody you can, because this is about the land records. Stop all this other stuff. Because securitization couldn't have happened without the land records. Couldn't have. All of these false mortgages being recorded, all these homes being stolen. When you sit down with people who've been through this, I'm 18 years now of this. And now we have Janet Hill with another foreign investor on her property who's tied to green energy. The guy on my property, All Rise Capital, is tied to Bitcoin. They've been going around the country, Washington, South Carolina, buying land on the edge of water because Bitcoin needs water, right? These Bitcoin machines. I thought Bitcoin was just like a little round thing that you threw at each other and you were trading. No, it's all electronic again. It's all digital. It's all electronic. And these, boy, my short film just became a long one, didn't it? Sorry about that, but those who know me know I can be long-winded and my mind travels, so stay with me on this journey. Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin Beijing Bitcoin, whatever, is a foreign company. Well, Beijing Bitcoin used All Rise Capital to mine Bitcoin on the shores of a Washington town. Not Washington, D.C., Washington State. When I saw that, I started reaching out. I talked to the reporter. I talked to the man who heads the land group that fought it so hard. Turns out that All Rise Capital, who had no money really, but yet they bought the Ukrainian stadium out of bankruptcy in Ukraine, and the man who sits on my property, Mikhail Trubchek, owns the women's soccer team there, football team, whatever you want to call it, but they kick a ball around. Well, he's kicked us around. He's kicked me around. They bought this property. It's called, it's the paper mill there. I can't think of the name of it. You'd have to go look at my other stuff that we've done. Whistleblower Pie, foreign investors, we talked about it. And then they couldn't get started because they needed too much utility, electricity, and it was going to ruin the town. How did they get the property? How did they get the easements? How did all this happen? Through the land records. It all comes back to the land records. So Bitcoin mining in Washington State, turns out I figured out and talked to the guy and I said, sounds like a BK problem here because they never could get the machines up and running. Beijing Bitcoin was giving millions of dollars to this as an investment. No, they gave the machines, which are millions of dollars. Not as many as they're saying, a couple 100 million more than they say. And then they opened this place in South Carolina for Bitcoin mining. This is foreign money. This is laundering our homes and our lives through these foreign investors. And it all starts at the frickin' land records. That property up in Washington should never have gone to Bitcoin mining. It's destroyed the property. The property now has pools of hazardous waste sitting on it. Well, at least last time I checked with the people up there. And you know how much it costs to clean those things up? And it's right on the water. Good old Washington State water. So we have Americans saying, stop stealing our lands. Stop stealing our health, our wealth, and our family's integrity. Stop indoctrinating our children. And if you just clean up these land records and give the properties back to the millions of dispossessed people in this country, you're going to see a fast chain reaction, because when you hold the people recording these documents accountable, who is it? Title companies? Real estate companies? Attorneys like Stephen Daly of Kutak Rock and Stephen Britt of Bank of America? Don't forget McCarthy and Holthus. All of these companies. You keep going. Bank of New York Mellon as trustee doesn't even exist. Gavin Sang told me, Billy, we don't own a loan on your property or have any connection to it. You're looking at Bank of America. Well, Bank of America. Oh, God, I don't even want to get into that. That'll take forever. And here I go again. I digress. Land records. Let's get Doge to audit the land records. Bring those kids in. Because I can tell you, and those listening, hello everybody, again, I can see you listening, but I can't. Oh, Leslie, hi dear friend, long time no see. Let's get this land cleaned up. And Leslie, aren't you up in Washington? I think so. You have to forgive me, 2 strokes later, I'm a little dingy and I sit on cameras looking like this. So what can I tell you? We got to get these land records cleaned up. We got to get these foreign investors out of our country. And when you have a Ukrainian, Slovakian, like Mikhail Trubček, who Julie Bruckner used to sit on my property under a special warranty deed, Janet got a limited warranty deed put on her property back in Georgia. That's what they call it. But both of them, special warranty deed, limited warranty deed, you know what that means? Claims against the title. They know they're buying stolen property. They know it. So we clean up the land records. We get rid of every single piece of fraud in the land records. And then again, don't forget, for all of us old timers going, oh my God, that's going to take forever, because they're probably down in a cave with people on tricycles having to retrieve them. No, folks, what's going on here is these kids will go in, they'll hit the software system that's up and running, that, by the way, we've tracked IPs back to the home addresses of county clerks. You can't make this stuff up. They'll get in there, and that little thing they put in, it's going to go whew. And in the time you can say, please fix it, give me my title back, they'll know exactly who did what, where it came from, and who was involved. And it's time we hold those who have stolen everything we own accountable. And each municipality, each locality, each state will get hundreds of trillions in dollars in fines and fees and lifetimes in prisons for the culprits. Your county clerks, your boards of supervisors, your board of commissioners, your judges. This is I'll call it RICO of mass destruction, and it has destroyed home ownership and caused extensive homelessness across this country. And yes, homelessness is also because of mental illness. Hell, they shut everything down they could and took the lands and used it for everything else other than the help and health of our mentally ill. And for the last 4 years, the mentally ill have run this country. How about common sense? We stop talking about everything else and just get these land records audited. Get clean records, clean titles again. And yeah, it'll probably go back. It'll go back all the way to the time of inception on this. What about the Beach family up in, up the state here? They got their property back after 100 years. Fraud has no statutes. So all of these attorneys spouting off, oh, statute of limitations, you can't bring that. Oh, it's past the time. Bullshit. If you have a bike that's stolen, and it's being peddled down the street by somebody who bought it at a swap meet, bought it on Craigslist, bought it from a neighbor's garage, and you have the owner with the proof they own that bike, and they take a police officer and say, please stop. We believe that the bicycle you're riding is stolen. Do you have proof you own it? Oh, well, I just bought it off Craigslist, and, well, I have a gentleman here who has the proof. Let's turn the bike upside. Oh, yep, his bike. Sorry, you're going to have to get off and let him ride it home. It's that simple. So is cleaning up the land records with all this AI technology. The dinosaurs of all of us, our baby boomers, those of us who didn't grow up with this, can't even fathom. We can fathom the caves with tricycles and little women in dresses and baskets going up and down the aisles, because in our day, everything was dinosaur like that. Everything. I mean, my kids laugh at me sometimes going, Mom, come on, time to get into the, get caught up here. We need help with our phones. We need help with our computers. These young kids, these guys are the ones to do this. It's simple. So, I'm going to take my sick ass off of here. and tell you all, I love you all of you who I have been fighting with together, not against, with together, against these DAs. Oh my God, Todd Spitzer. The stories I have about him and his campaign manager. I mean, don't get me started again. I'll never get off of here, but it all comes back to all we've been asking for is to stop the fraud and forgeries going into the land records, destroying our lives. Allowing sheriffs to show up with SWAT teams? Seriously? Oh, yeah, I know. I've got my pajamas on. I've not been feeling good the last few days, and my s'mores pajamas. So give us some more help here, Doge. I guess it's prophetic. I got my s'mores pajamas on. Give us some more help here. Let's get the land records cleaned up. So this may be long-winded to some, but those who know me know it's probably short-winded compared to what I can do. But please, let's get that appointment. Get this to Donald Trump, whether you like him or not. I don't care. I don't give a damn. You don't have to like people helping you, but the end goal is what we're after. He's got Elon Musk with these brilliant kids. And not just kids, by the way. We know there's more people, but these kids know how to do this. They've all been working on high top security clearances. Let's get them into a simple job because it's going to collect more than they even thought USAID had going on. USAID isn't the big deal of all this. It's our land records. So let's get them cleaned up. Come on, Elon. Come on. Let's get this done. Love y'all, and now I got to figure out how to shut this thing off. Magoo glasses ready to engage. Let's clean it up. Have a great day.